Being an Oscar-winning filmmaker doesn't mean you'll never have a box office flop. Ask Spielberg, Del Toro, Paul Thomas Anderson, Ridley Scott, and Denis Villeneuve, among others. Even if the films that didn't find an audience in cinemas were fantastic videos that deserved to perform far better, all of these top directors have at least one box office failure. A film's failure at the box office says nothing about its quality. Some of the most critically acclaimed films of the 21st century, such as Children of Men, The Master, and Under the Skin, began as box office disappointments. So, which movies are we talking about? The film Nightmare Alley, directed by Guillermo del Toro, failed badly at the box office, earning $37 million worldwide on a $60 million production budget. This led to Martin Scorsese publishing an article in the Los Angeles Times urging people to see it in cinemas. Martin called the lack of interest in Nightmare Alley, which stars Bradley Cooper as a con guy who rises through the ranks from carnival worker to world-famous illusionist. Distressing Nightmare Alley was Martin's favorite in his positive review, and Peter DeBerge dubbed it a bravura noir. Despite its box financial failure, Nightmare Alley wowed Academy voters and received 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Film. The musical West Side Story. Musicals had a tough time at the box office in 2021. Film reviewers praised Steven Spielberg's rendition of The West Side Story, but audiences in the United States were mainly uninterested, with the film grossing only $38 million domestically. The movie made $73 million worldwide, but it wasn't enough since the musical cost well over $100. One can only hope that the film's 2022 release on Disney Plus will attract new viewers. West Side Story received 7 Oscar nominations, including frontrunner Ariana DeBoss's candidacy for Film Director and Supporting Actress. The film In the Heights. In the summer of 2021, John M. Chu's blockbuster adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tony-winning In the Heights flopped at the box office, collecting only $29 million in the United States and under $45 million internationally. Miranda's songs are a blend of electrifying hip-hop, salsa, and Broadway's lyricism. And director John M. Chu stages it all with a bravura playfulness, whether he's setting a production number about upscale dreams in a public swimming pool or letting 2 lovers loose on the side of a building. That is, of course, according to Variety's Owen Gleiberman. In the Heights captures the lives of people caught up in a dizzying, at times sad dance between their ancestors' homeland and the America they've made their own. The Last Duel. The Last Duel is a historical epic directed by Ridley Scott and is one of the largest movie office flops of the pandemic era. The film had a production expenditure of more than $100 million but only made $10 million in the United States and $30 million globally. Those figures make it a historic flop, especially considering the presence of renowned actors like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. According to Variety's Owen Gleiberman, Scott created a pretty interesting historical epic and a compelling story of ambition, passion, and political chicanery, thus failing at the box office. Scott said to Mark Maron that he believes that what it boils down to is what we've got now. The audience is brought up on cell phones. He blamed millennials for the film's box office failures. The Many Saints of Newark. The Many Saints of Newark, directed by David Chase, was possibly the largest casualty of Warner Bros.' move to broadcast all of its 2021 films on HBO Max on the same day they were released in cinemas. Although studio officials expressed pleasure with how the prequel did on streaming, The Many Saints of Newark bombed at the movie office, grossing only $8 million in the United States and $12 million globally. It's reasonable to suppose that generations of viewers who grew up watching The Sopranos on TV or online continue to watch The Many Saints of Newark in the same way. The Suicide Squad. Would The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, have been a greater hit if it hadn't been for the pandemic and the Warner Bros. Choice to stream the film on HBO Max when it was released in theaters? We can only hope, because Gunn's savage DC Comics tentpole deserved more than $55 million in the United States and $167 million globally. Those final numbers are dismally low for a comic book blockbuster, especially one with a $185 million budget. Gunn's concept was complimented by Variety as cunningly scuzzy, like David Ayer's Suicide Squad should have been. The review said that it's a team of scruffy cutthroats origin narrative that feels honestly immersed in the grunge underground, and shot for shot, it's crafted with a slicing brilliance that honors the genre of the Dirty Dozen. Fortunately, the Suicide Squad appears to have found an audience on HBO Max, since the companion series Peacemaker was a smash hit for the streaming service this year. The Rhythm Section. The Blake Lively starring action film The Rhythm Section was one of the greatest box office disappointments of 2020. With barely $6 million worldwide on a production of $50 million. It's a pity because the film's superb filmmaker, Reed Morano, an Emmy winner for The Handmaid's Tale, who could have easily been on Marvel's call list following his directorial effort, has created a visceral piece of action filmmaking. After learning that the plane disaster that killed her family was a terrorist strike, Lively plays a lady who seeks vengeance. In this review for Variety, Peter DeBurge called the film a dark, broody, and unexpectedly human retribution thriller. Morano creates several amazing action moments, including a one-take combat sequence that deserved more recognition when the movie first came out. Dr. Sleep. Given that it is a sequel to The Shining and that horror is one of the most successful genres at the movie office, expectations for Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep were high. Unfortunately, the film only made $31 million in the United States. That might be because Flanagan's film was more of a slow-burn horror experience than a typical Blumhouse creeper or a jump-scare-filled film. Variety's Owen Gleiberman said in his review that he still isn't sure if The Shining required a second act, but Dr. Sleep delivers one that's original and scary enough to warrant its presence. The film is overly long at 151 minutes, resulting from its popularity and the 2017 adaptation of the first half of Stephen King's Killer Clown novel. Destroyer. Destroyer, directed by Karen Kusama and starring Nicole Kidman, was a dismal detective thriller that barely made up $1.5 million in the United States. Destroyer grossed $5.5 million worldwide after its run. With those numbers, the drama is one of Kidman's worst failures. Kidman plays a retired police officer who seeks vengeance on the gang at the core of a blown investigation years before. In a performance that all but obliterates the concept that viewers demand pleasant protagonists, Nicole Kidman goes black and practically unrecognizable. In a role that liberates the idea that audiences require likable protagonists, Kidman has always been a chameleon. But in this case, she doesn't just alter her color or put on a false nose like The Hours. She vanishes into a new skin, rearranging her insides to match the character's tongue hide. Children of Men. Children of Men is one of the classics. Directed by Alfonso Cuarón, is widely regarded as one of the best science fiction films of the 21st century. However, it began as a box office flop, grossing just $35 million in the United States on a $75 million production budget. Even the film's worldwide total of $70 million couldn't get it close to breaking even. The film, set in 2027, stars Clive Owen as a public official tasked with assisting the first pregnant woman in 2 decades to flee the instability of a world on the verge of collapse. Because of its critical acclaim, the film received 3 Oscar nominations, including one for adapted screenplay. The picture more than delivers on the action front, not in bang for your buck spectacular, but in the type of gritty, docu-like passages that drag audiences out of their seats alongside the main heroes, according to Variety's review. That's all from this video. Which movie here do you think deserves a second shot? Make sure to leave a comment and share this video with others. See you in the next video!